Oh,
So,
hey.
man, it took me a long time to get my shit together this morning
Yeah, I was in your house waiting for coffee, but I was just
to
like,
do this.
yeah.
It feels like it's been 10 years.
This is our longest break. It's been
Yeah, for sure.
over I think 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, I mean, just out of pure necessity, yes.
Yeah.
Uh, and like, I honestly, man, like I got up this morning and I'm like, if we don't do it today, just busy.
Yeah. It's good though. I mean, vacation stuff is important, and then work stuff's important. So it's like that's why I like putting like a deadline or like this has to stay. I think why this show is successful is because it's super organic and like we don't really pre-plan discussions. We will send each other like news clips and stuff like that, but
Yep.
like we don't have to. I like the fact that it's not on a schedule. That kind of makes it seem like more like again organic and like actual pure.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because it like literally when we say there's no plan, there is never a plan. I think we planned to talk about Bigfoot. I think that's like the only plan. And we didn't do that the first 2 weeks we meant to do it. And then we finally did.
I
So
mean, since we've last talked, I mean, how was your vacation, by the way?
vacation was good. I don't vacation well. I don't know how to slow down, especially coming out of the gauntlet that I was coming out of. Like I came out of doing 5 days of like building sets and building props and stuff for my videos, and then right into 10 days of shooting of like getting only two hours of sleep a night kind of thing. And that's not an exaggeration. Like I would get in bed at 7:30 in the morning after shooting all night and cleaning up and doing all of that, and then would get up at 9:30 and get going again. So I had one day in between. So and by the way, I still have 3 days of shooting to do that start tomorrow. So, um, but anyway, uh, and I've also been editing the videos and like those because I got a single coming out, so I have to edit that video and have it done and ready to go. And it is what it is. But anyway, uh, I digress. I had one day in between that, so there really wasn't any time to like stop. Although that one day, man, I think I slept. Well, not that day because I had some extra cleanup to do, but the first day of vacation, I guess, sleeping on the plane and all that, I slept pretty hard. So that was good. But I just don't vacation well. Like I don't know how to stop and not have anything to do. Luckily my wife knows that and she had a lot of stuff planned for us to do, which was good.
Yeah.
I think there was only like 2 days where we didn't have something planned. So,
I like when you
yeah.
sent me that picture of that balcony. Like, had you not even said, "Hey,
Well,
look
I didn't know if
familiar,"
I should say anything or not, but you
I
know.
would have known. Isn't it weird how like you spend an hour somewhere in some part of the world on tour, and you would see a picture of that, and I could tell you everything we did that day and what we ate that night and how windy it was. It was kind of
Yep.
cool that you were able to go back like further away from the pandemic, right? Because when we were there, the world was that part of the world was still kind of like
Well, no, I think was it still shut down or was that before pandemic?
was it before pandemic?
Yeah, I think that was before pandemic. I think that was that last Attention Europe tour that we did.
So that would have been what
That was that
2020.
was I think that's when everybody got COVID and we didn't know we had COVID on the tour because like everybody was just deathly ill on that tour. Uh yeah, it was like that was the November into December. That's when we shot the music videos for like Dead Don't Die and all of that. It was that tour.
Oh
No, no,
yeah,
sorry. No, what am I thinking of? That's not right because that song wouldn't have been out yet. Was it
I
were we
think
in
it was.
Portugal?
Yeah, it
No,
was.
we
Yeah,
it was no, it was no, dude, we were in Portugal with Tremonti's band,
yes,
Alter Bridge, but
Alter
that was
Bridge.
but that was that last tour of Attention.
Right. Damn.
Yeah.
But either way, like it's interesting when you see that type of stuff, and you're kind of like, there's no reason why I should remember that, but I couldn't tell you the day of the week it is. Like it's weird how like the brain is just like, and we weren't there that long, but I think the story of how we got there and like how freaking windy it was, blowing our shit everywhere, eating this
Yeah.
little plain charcuterie with sparkling water. It's just so just
It
awesome.
was cold up there too, man. Like the air wasn't cold, but the wind was cold.
Yeah.
It was a lot. The weather was a lot better there. The weather there was like the weather is here right now. Like it was 70s and
Yeah.
awesome.
Did you walk? Guys, walk there like we did, like kind of like find the old churches and
Yeah,
stuff, or do you kind of like?
yeah. We walked up there the first day. And I think that's when I sent you the picture was the first day. Um, and like this little cafe thing that was like there were tourists everywhere, but like nobody knew it was there. And so it was pretty interesting. So I took Kelly to that, and that was cool, like to get up there. And dude, it was like the same thing. It was like there are tourists everywhere downstairs, and you go up there and it's like five tables open, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we walked around, man. I saw a bunch of stuff well, I saw everything that we saw the first time. Kelly thought it was interesting too. She's like, "How do you remember where all this stuff is?" I'm like, I don't know, like, because I think it's we talked about that for a second. So like literally, like once I walked up there, I was like, "Yeah, I think around the corner up here is this thing, and it would be there, you know." And then I think over this way is this other thing, and then we like you and I walked around for an afternoon, and here I am, like 6 years later, 7 years later, 6 years later, and it's like I knew where everything was.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's pretty interesting. We saw a few things that weren't there before. So like, there are these Roman ruins that they've uncovered up there in that old city part
Oh, really?
that weren't there that when we were there last time they hadn't discovered them yet or rediscovered them yet because they were basically like demolishing a house and in the underneath the supports for this house it was like this cavern and come to find out it was this Roman amphitheater. And so now it's like they've started to dig out the street and everything there, and it's like you can like walk and see like, I mean, dude, it's just Roman ruins right there. It's
Do
pretty
you think
interesting.
do you think we're happier going there, or someone that's never left Portugal coming to like say Philadelphia or DC to look at the history? Do you think they have the same reaction we do there, or
Well,
like
no, not the
is
not the
it
history, but like,
no, but
I
like the
mean,
appreciation towards like what could have happened, like the Liberty Bell or Congress and stuff like that, versus oh look at this old church that Pope whoever did a service here type thing.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's Pope whoever was my favorite too. That he's the best Pope
I
for
think
sure.
he was Lithuanian.
Yeah, Pope whoever Pope Pope whoever the first,
The thirst.
the
Yeah.
third. Oh man. No, I think that it depends on, I mean, this is going to sound weird, but I think it depends on what your point of view is. I think that if someone is coming from a country where freedom is not a real thing and they can see the United States, I think they have an appreciation for things here. I don't think there's like an awe about history or anything, but I think if they saw the Liberty Bell, or they saw, where the Constitution was ratified and signed and whatever, yeah, I think that they would, you know, they'd have an appreciation for that. Um, Interestingly enough, man, like I was just thinking as I was walking around there, because we went from Lisbon, we were in Lisbon for 3 days, 4 days, 3 days, and then we went to London. So we did Lisbon and London.
You saw Ben,
Uh,
right?
yeah, we Ben Bruce and his
Yep.
wife Ciara, and it was they were celebrating his birthday's on Halloween, so and my birthday was the 23rd, so we kind of did this sort of joint. Well, the night we got there, they were having their Halloween party, so we went to that, and we didn't have costumes. We were just ugly Americans. That's what we dressed up as. Um, but like, dude, his Ben's stepdad and mom are so nice, man. And I hadn't seen them since they moved from Charleston, so I got to see them again. And we did the Halloween party, and then the next day we went to a Chelsea
Yeah,
football
awesome.
match, Chelsea Newcastle match, and that was awesome, man. Because I'm a big Premier League fan, so it was nice. It was great to be able to be in that environment. We went to like the pub, the Chelsea pub. It's not called the Chelsea pub; it's called something else, the Butcher and something, I think. But anyway, it's the pub that's across the street from from the
Stadium.
stadium and
Yeah.
Stamford Bridge, I think is what it's called, is the stadium. But anyway, yeah, man, it was just great to be in that environment, and you know, that was a lot of fun. It was just great seeing them again. And then the third day we were there, we just walked around a little bit and came home. But when we were in Portugal, man, like you're looking at these Roman ruins, right? And you're also going through the history of Portugal, which included kings and then fascist dictators and now a parliament and um it's interesting to just look at the ruins of empires and then think about where the West is right now as an I'm not saying the United States, I'm saying the whole West, like the West, the West has been this beacon of capitalism that has lifted the world up and out of poverty. And a lot of, I mean, there, say what you will about capitalism, I mean, unfettered capitalism I think is not a good thing. I mean, when you get people that are just kind of what we're seeing now, where it's all about big corporations and the little guy gets stepped on. But capitalism as a tool has lifted most of the world that has applied it out of poverty for sure. It's been the best. People live longer. We have more. Um, but I include the West in that. It's not just the United States. It's you know, uh, Western Europe and the United States, basically.
Right.
But um, and Canada. Don't forget Canada. Although, but watching that kind of start to deteriorate now, in the name of other ideologies and stuff, it's very interesting to look at the ruins and go, man, I wonder if actually said that to Ben walking around London. I said, just think one day people will find these ruins, you know, and it's kind of true. Nothing is forever for sure. Now that's
Yeah.
depressing. I don't mean for it to sound depressing, but it was just like kind of what was on my mind. And because you asked about, someone else coming here, what would they think? Um, I did, I guess I knew that I knew Spain had gone through the fascist dictator thing. I didn't know that Portugal had the same thing at the same time, basically, or around the
Right.
same time. Um, so so that's interesting for sure. But you know, things come and go, man. But yeah, dude, it was a good trip all the way around. It was a good vacation as far as vacations go. I definitely don't, I can't do, man, I cannot do the go on vacation and sit on a beach somewhere. Like that just like doesn't
Yeah. It's
just doesn't do it for me. I mean, not the beach part is fine. I love the beach, but like just sitting and doing nothing, like I go nuts.
yeah. If I want to go somewhere, I want to be productive in the sense of I want to learn something each day, or go
Mm.
see something I've read about, or see it on a TV show, or it's like something like the like all the churches we see, like the cool stuff we try to do. Like we did that trip in Budapest. We did like the Transylvania, the prison area, the
Yeah.
tour and stuff like that, where it's like you get out of your hotel room and actually feel like you've done something, as opposed to just eating your three meals, taking some stupid touristy pictures, and kind of just piss it off till the next day.
And I think about how many people never leave their hometown or how many people never get to travel. Not that they have to
Oh,
want to. I'm just saying, like, we have this opportunity to
take
to
advantage of it.
to see all sorts of places and things and experiences, man. Like, because I'm so over stuff. Like, I think it's just a byproduct of success in some way is like you get a lot of stuff, whether it's you're buying stuff or people are sending you stuff or giving you stuff. And it's like, I'm looking around the room at my music equipment. I might have said this before. I don't remember. So pardon me if I'm repeating myself, but I think I'm going to sell most of this stuff. Like, it's awesome gear and it's great, but like, I think I was a better writer and producer when I had less, and I think that goes for everything. I think I'm better when I have less, whatever that means. Um, and so now it's like instead of getting me stuff for my birthday, Kelly got me a flight in a Spitfire, which was great. The
Oh yeah,
World War II Spitfire. That's one of the things we did one of the days in the UK.
it's
And
badass.
yeah, man. And I mean, I actually got to actually fly it. Like, you know, now there was a pilot in the front seat who knew what he was doing. Guy named Adam. He was awesome. Uh, he's going to come to some Shinedown shows over there when we go back. He's actually a British Airways pilot,
Oh
and then
shit,
and then does the Spitfire stuff on the weekend, like flies classic planes and that kind of stuff. But that actually let me like fly the plane, which was interesting because you see in movies have ruined it where they're like doing all
oh
of this
herky
stuff.
jerky shit. Yeah,
And it's like, man, like, so people don't know this, but a Spitfire, instead of having like a joystick, it has a stick, but it has a ring on it. So you kind of hold it with two hands if you want, like this. It doesn't turn like this, but you kind of, but the interesting thing was that it's like millimeters, man. It's like you do this and the plane does this, and you do this and the plane does this. It's like there's none of this stuff. It's like very just minimal motions. Like you don't have to move around a lot. Um, I'm sure like in a dogfight or something, you throw it around a little more.
yeah,
But I just found it really interesting, man, how touchy it was because I'm an airplane guy, but I don't get those types of experiences, to really
right.
feel what that feels like. So,
Yeah,
so yeah, man. So those experiences of like traveling, seeing, experiencing, like that's if you have the opportunity to do those things and you don't take advantage of them, man,
You know what I
Yeah.
find interesting? Obviously, because we're from here, but like when we have like a day off in like New Jersey or Green Bay, I mean, not to knock the people we know there, the friends we can always meet up with and stuff like that, but like we don't have the same appreciation where it's like, hey, meet in the lobby at 11 a.m. We'll grab coffee. We'll walk around the city.
Get
It's
mugged.
I
Yeah.
mean,
That's
yeah,
it's like,
right. We're gonna get shanked.
yeah.
We're gonna run through a protest.
Yeah.
So just like it is interesting that I don't. But there is cool stuff in the country. Obviously, we're not ever booking tour dates near Yellowstone, Yosemite, Grand Canyon, stuff like that, where we can kind of get out, right? But like,
Right.
we do have old churches, we do have these old cemeteries and these old, especially in New England, like the battles in Concord and stuff like Gettysburg and stuff like that. We can do, but it's like I always find it like it kind of bums me out that we're not. I'm not as passionate personally for my own like country in the sense of getting out and just exploring, right? But I think it just
Yeah.
feels new. Even the churches that have been there for close to 100 years, they feel new.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you and I are spoiled and Barry's spoiled in a way that we live in like three of the oldest cities in the United States,
Correct.
right? I mean,
Everything's
Barry, St.
haunted.
Augustine for Barry, like, right,
Yeah.
you know, I'm in Charleston at 1690.
Right.
Boston is like, so like where, that's as old as you're going to get in the United States. And it's like right here,
Yeah.
you
My
know?
house is 1870. It was built.
Yeah. So, uh, that kind of puts a damper on that kind of thing, looking for history. But like, I do enjoy, Revolutionary War, Civil War history stuff. And, um, there's a lot of cool stuff around. I, I really, I started doing it on the last record a bit, is making more of an effort to go do stuff on days off. Like we go fishing, or we'd find a
Yeah, which I
museum,
love.
or
Yeah.
find a museum or something like that. But something that happens on tour though is you're fucking tired. You
You
get to a
can't
day off,
people.
you get to a day off, and it's like I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to, you know. Uh, it's interesting, man, because I'm not antisocial. I like I have a social gas tank that gets empty really fast. And one of those things on tour is when my gas I wake up and my gas tank's already empty from like the last 2 days, and then people want to keep popping in and talking to me. They want to tell me about this cool thing, or come here, hey, come up here on stage and look at this thing. And it's like, I don't want to go on stage and look at the thing. I don't care about the thing.
Yeah.
I know you care about the thing, and I care about it because you care about the thing. So I'll come to the stage and look at it and put my best excited face on. But like, I just really don't want to do that right now.
Yeah.
And so you get to a day off, and um, it's like, I mean, sometimes you have to make yourself go do it. Here's the thing, though. I'm never unhappy that I did it. Like when I make myself do it, like
Yeah.
when I don't feel like it, like there, I'm never mad that I did it. I'm never mad that I went and did the thing.
Well, it's like going to gym. You're like, I don't want to work out today. My back hurts. But the minute you do some stretches or something like that, you're kind of like, I'm glad I did because now I feel better off.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. Right. So, maybe that's something we need to make more of an effort to do on the next tour, is
Not
in
talk
the
to each
States.
other on days off.
Not talk
Right?
to each other. Don't go to the stage and see the thing. Tell that person to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
Like
Screw
really
your
te
history.
team building, like for sure.
Icebreakers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bring it, lift everyone up.
I had a talk a couple days ago. We're talking about like technology, like writing, and I posed a question. Do you think someone like Shakespeare, Edgar Allan Poe, with how they were writing, ink, pen, paper, could be as successful as they were with that technology if they had like computers like we do today? And like the authors today, could they have been just as successful writing? Could J.K. Rowling written in the 1700s? And like we're just trying to figure out like how much technology has a role in the understanding and working of like the literature and like the written language.
It just depends on your method. And I guess if you don't have any other method, you don't know any different. Our thing now is we have the perspective of knowing a lot of different methods. And there are going to be methods in the future that we don't know about now, and people will be
Right.
asking the same question,
And it seemed like
perhaps.
writers back in the day had a better grasp and respect towards the language, the English language, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I'm
But
not. There's obviously great authors today that have a great grasp of the English language, but it just seems like when Shakespeare was writing, you there's more like brevity to it. There's more. It felt more alive than it did because it came. You could
yeah,
see it the first time on ink with ink pen.
Well, I just don't. I know what you mean because I say that all the time about the English language. No one appreciates the English language anymore. I can't stand it when people use words that, uh, at least in the past, I couldn't stand when people use like kind of make up words that don't really exist, but then those words become part of the
Yeah,
vernacular and then they
yeah,
end
the
up in the
lexicon
dictionary.
of yeah,
Well, like uh uh pleaded guilty. Pleaded when I was a kid was not a word. You say pled. You pled guilty. And
yeah.
so like it's like nails on a chalkboard when I hear some intelligent person say pleaded. And now it's in the dictionary. That's what I'm talking about. So like my sensibility about the English language doesn't really matter. What matters is whatever it is. And the I saw a reel recently. It might have been a YouTube video or reel. You can find it where they people basically talk English from its very early inception through today. They're speaking. And I would say that up until the in that timeline, because they're just talking, and it's like then all of a sudden you start to hear words that you know, and then it starts to make a little more sense, and then you get into, But I would say that it wasn't until the 1500s in that list or was going through that I started to be able to understand what they were saying, you know,
Interesting. Yeah,
and then by the time that it got to the late 1800s, it was like, okay, I got it now. And then up until present. So we don't really think about the fact that our language is constantly evolving and constantly changing. And so, it's a living, breathing, moving thing. So I think the fact that we read Shakespeare and how beautiful it sounds. Well, it sounds beautiful to us because it's not how we speak. Like what maybe the way that we speak is beautiful, and not just the way we speak, but like the inflections. Like listen to how people talked on film. Listen to people giving interviews. The
yeah,
man on the street interviews from like the 20s, or sorry, it wouldn't be the 20s because it would have to be film. But uh uh well, I guess it would have been film. Man on the street and the earliest man on the street interviews, and they'd talk like this, and then I saw the thing and it was over there, and then it went da 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 da, and then blah blah blah. Right?
yeah.
That's just how people talked.
Right.
They don't talk like that anymore. Now everything's a question. I went over there, and then I saw the thing, and then it went up, and then and then I went, and these people that up talk, that's become a thing now. Use the word like every other
Yeah.
word, and so maybe I think that's the most ridiculous thing ever. Up talk is ridiculous. Saying the word like all the time is ridiculous, and I realize I'm guilty of saying all the time. I say as a placeholder all the time, so I'm guilty of these things too. But that's ridiculous too. I should know better. Um, but in the future, people might um, look back on the upspeak and the likes and the and that might be the most beautiful thing they've ever
Yeah.
heard.
Eloquent.
And so I mean, maybe Shakespeare in his time was like see, I just did it. I said like maybe Shakespeare in his time uh was considered trash, who
Yeah.
knows?
Too poppy.
Yeah. So uh I I try not to be salty about things. I do get salty about things. The same thing as all the people that are moving to my hometown. Like we're overrun with people. We're overrun with people who are not from here. They're all from up north or they're all from California, and none of them care about our way of life. None of them give a shit about. They just want to live somewhere warm that didn't have harsh COVID lockdown. So now we've got everybody and their brother here. I could be salty about it, but I choosing not to be.
Right.
Yeah, same thing with the language stuff. Just uh
When it comes to your
but I want to get back to your question though about the technology, right? I mean, would Hunter S. Thompson have been as good a writer without his typewriter?
no, I don't think so.
Like he or Hemingway with his typewriter? Uh yeah, I think about the way people write songs. Like I write songs with a pen and paper.
Yeah.
I don't I don't 'Cause I used to do it with a computer and I used to try it with my phone. Something organic and beautiful happens when you put pen to paper. And it's what happens with the poetry when I'm writing poetry or I'm developing stories. Now I'll write dialogue because my dialogue's in my brain when I'm writing a dialogue scene. And so I'm just thinking about the characters talking back and forth so I can type that. But
Right.
when I'm formulating ideas and I'm trying to bring things in from the universe, man, pen to paper for me all
Well,
the time.
it's almost like a
And
spiritual connection in a weird sense. Like
mhm,
you're more connected to the words.
yeah, because they are there is this connection between whatever's around you in the ether, your brain, your nervous system into that pen, the ink on the pen down to the paper.
And
You know,
there's
it's
no
like
like
this. It's
safety net.
everything's connect. No, and
Because if
dude,
you have to misspell a word, you have to block it out with exclamation
yeah.
point. You have to scribble. The paper looks shitty after you make a bunch of
Oh yeah.
corrections. Where on a laptop, delete, it looks clean, pristine, Times New Roman. My own handwriting, it changes every
I
fucking
mean,
word. It's awesome.
dude, I mean, look at that. That's what it looks like. You know, it doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look safe. You know, it doesn't look, I mean, look at that.
Yeah, like
That's what it
I've
looks,
actually been writing all my poetry out where it's just
that's what it
like,
looks like,
yeah,
you know,
that's fucking
then,
rad.
and then I have to decipher what it is when I read it back, trying to see what this poem was. Oh yeah, I remember this one. This is a pretty good one, I think. But and then I try to write it out neatly after that, you know, I try to like write it all out and uh but it never works. It eventually end up screwing something up. So there's some so for me, part of the my process and your process seems to work that way. I write songs with people who write on laptops all day long, and it doesn't for them, it's holding the instrument and they're thinking about what they want to say, and then they'll type it, and then they're thinking about what they want to say, and they'll type it. You know, everybody has their method. I think that I don't know, man. I think that if you're born to do something, you'll find a way to make it happen
Yeah,
in whatever time you're in. And you know, it's that question that's come up since computer recording and Pro Tools and Beat Detective and Auto Tune and all of this stuff about the Beatles. Like, well, the Beatles didn't blah 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 blah. Yeah, but if the Beatles had Pro Tools, they would have used it,
oh fuck yeah.
you know. And so, but would that have diminished the Beatles? Probably not. They were super talented, you know. Um, so
It's like I think for me, like where that question came from, it's like when you look at a picture, Hemingway, I almost said R.L. Stein. When you look at like Hemingway, or like uh, who's the guy? Nevermore, The Raven, Edgar
oh,
Allan Poe.
Edgar Allan
When
Poe.
you
Yeah.
see pictures of these people doing their craft, it just sells the craft more because they look like the isolation, the where the just the vibe of it feels like their art's real. Where you look at
Yeah.
pictures today of people in their laptops and offices doing their thing, it's
Well,
like,
because look, man, the reason why it doesn't look like that is the the unfortunate side, and I'm about to experience this full on of being a creator these days is you have to also be an influencer. You also have to market you have to market yourself on the internet, on social media. And so a lot of that mystique gets lost because people film themselves making something or they go back and they, you know, everybody wants behind the scenes footage and the magic is gone in that moment, right? Uh, because the reality is if you're a really great artist and you are, be careful how I say this, uh, because there's great art that's created not like this. So I don't want to, like, maybe I shouldn't say really great artists. Uh, the people that I'm drawn to tend to be the people who have to dig in the dirt and struggle through it to pull something out to you know they have to um you know, gain scars and uh, go through something to create. And I think that's true whether you're sitting in a room full of digital equipment with a laptop, or you're sitting there with a pen and paper, or you're recording onto 2-inch tape, or you're recording into Pro Tools, or you're filming something on with an 8 millimeter camera with real film, or you're filming with a digital Pocket Osmo 3 DJI camera. Um, the soul is what's there. And yeah, you look at if you see pictures of Edgar Allan Poe or you see pictures of Hemingway, uh, it seems more real to us because we feel like they were doing more with less, but that's not what it's about. it's all a means to an end. The this and this, whether you have Hemingway's talent or Poe's talent or John Lennon and Paul McCartney's talent or not, the desire and the soul of it is still the same, I think, if you're
Right.
striving for something great. And so I don't care what you're using to make it. How do I feel when I see the end result or hear the end result or read the end result? That's all that matters. So we do have this sort of skewed thing about like, oh, this jackass, why is he posting another fucking Instagram reel of him playing the song that he wrote for the third fucking time? Well, because that's the only way for him to market his or her uh art to people these days. That's the only way to really get it out there. I mean, there are other ways, but the typical way is that now. And so it takes this, we see that. We see the dog and pony show, but we don't see is the struggle to make the thing.
Yeah.
Whereas the reason why we revere the older poets and the people in the from long ago, the Shakespeares, is because, well, we didn't really get to see their process. We didn't really know what it was. We hear stories about what it was. We have this myth built about them. I mean, look, if Hunter S. Thompson had had an Instagram page and he'd been posting
Oh,
every day, I, like, would we really revere him as this pop culture icon if Warhol or Banksy, was were posting constantly? It, no, man, because it wouldn't feel the same.
no. That's why Banksy is like the power of not knowing who he is, but yet he's so relatable to all of us, is what makes that art so profound.
I think we're going to find out that Banksy is a few people.
Yeah, I
Just
mean, it would make sense.
I don't, it's a lot to pull off for one person,
Yeah,
without a team, you know.
a team that you
Uh,
could trust to not be doing
yeah,
a live video of, oh, here's Banksy painted the Sistine
yeah,
Chapel. Yeah,
yeah. Well, but again, it's Michelangelo, right? Isn't there the story about like he from painting the chapel? Wasn't there something that happened to his eyes or to his face from like
I think the
the
paint or
paint?
something fell in there or something, right?
The paint dripped on him and it did something to his skin or to his eyes. I forget what
Yeah,
it is. But we don't see that. We do see it actually. You see it in the work. That's what I mean about the end result is how do I feel when I listen to it? How do I feel when I look at it? How do I feel when I read it? You know, um, who cares? Like if hypothetically, let's just say that you and I found out somehow, or that the world found out that Michelangelo was a time traveling digital artist and he created the Sistine Chapel on a computer all himself, digital artwork,
yep.
came up with it, and then laser
Stenciled
printed
it.
it onto the ceiling, and then got in his time machine and went back to the year 35, 40, or whatever. We get so caught up in what somebody's process is that we let it ruin the way we listen to something. And here's the thing too, it's like it's not really the public, it's other artists that do this in a lot of ways. Like, oh, that band records with Pro Tools and they use Beat Detective and auto tune, so fuck them. I record real music. I record real music onto tape, and I do the well. Yeah, but your fucking shit sounds like crap, and nobody cares because I'm not saying
Right, right.
it's like, but the guy that recorded into Pro Tools is doing something that's resonating with people.
Right.
So, and by the way, people that record to tape do make great music. That I'm using that as an example. Like the person the artist that stands on high and talks about how their process is the real way to do it. Um, it kind of goes back to the Eddie Trunk thing we've talked about in the past.
Oh yeah.
Eddie Trunk with bands that use tracks that are not real, blah 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 blah. Well, maybe you're not real, motherfucker. You
Right.
know, like it's who fucking cares? Are people enjoying themselves? Do they feel something when they go to the concert? Are they having an
Correct.
experience? That's what matters, you know? So it is kind of artists that do that to other artists in a way that sort of they gatekeep
Yeah,
the art, you know?
they make their art very elitist, very
Yeah.
like dude, shut the fuck, dude,
Yeah.
you're playing at 2 p.m. and you're critiquing a
I,
band.
and I'm fine with it being, I'm fine with I love artists who are proud of their process. Like that's different. If you're not critical of anybody else and you're just proud of the way you made something. Like I've been, dude, I love the fact that like I record a lot of my synth stuff is analog synthesizers, instead of like being in the box computer synthesizers, I'm recording like real synths and stuff because I feel like it has a thing to it. I'm proud of that. I think it's cool. That doesn't mean that I'm going to diminish somebody who doesn't do that. That's different. Like if I decided to record the next E-Bass record on 2-inch tape, good for me. Like if that's what it took for me to get my thing down to feel like really excited about it, I love that. That's great. But you don't start pointing fingers at other artists and going, you know, well, you made yours on a laptop, so it's
Right.
invalid or something. Um, so I guess to bring it all the way back around, that magic that we see in those pictures, or that there's no less magic now. It's just we see more of the process. We
Correct.
know we
Yeah.
know how the sausage is made more because people have to post all the time. I'm about to have to post all sorts of stuff for my record, which I'm excited about getting the record out there. I'm excited about the first single dropping. I'm excited about videos and people getting to see what I made. And uh, I'm not excited about having to post every
Yeah.
day and because it's like I don't think it's that interesting. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like the I don't think I'm that interesting to post every day and have it make a difference. I don't know,
When
but
it
I have
comes
no
to,
choice.
yeah, do you think your handle of the English language, like when it comes to songwriting, your writing and stuff, especially for your project coming out, how often have you found yourself going to like a dictionary or thesaurus to try to figure out different words, or are you using
I'll do
language that's always like you've just used where it seems more organic?
I'll do a thesaurus every once in a while. I do a thesaurus more when I'm writing poetry because I just want a different word than this word.
Correct.
Like I know what I want to say, but like this my uh my language vault is empty and I can't think of that. I know there's another word that means this. What's something more interesting? I will pull that for sure. The sources can be sometimes with so songwriting is interesting. It's also poetry too, is the same way I think. But um, like I like to rhyme. I like rhymey stuff in my songs. Someone like Chris Cornell rhymed very rarely. I mean, he did rhyme, but like uh, you listen to Soundgarden, listen to Chris Cornell solo stuff, and there's not a lot of rhyme to it. But I guess when you have a voice like that, you can say anything you want, and it'll
Yeah.
work. Um, but like Brent and I tend to like to rhyme, and so sometimes you get caught on a rhyme, like the I rhymes, like the words light, night, bright. There isn't. I mean, there are. I say there aren't a lot of words. There aren't a lot of. I always seem to get caught on the I rhymes. Like there's only a certain set of words that seem to want to work in a song sometimes with that rhyme. And I've got to get off of that rhyme. Like, okay, this isn't working. But what can I say that means the same thing? Um, and I'd say it's rare that I go to a thesaurus, but I will go to a thesaurus at some point if I need to. And then maybe you find another rhyme that'll work or something. Honestly, man, like I'm doing it right now. Like I'm gazing out of the window of my studio and I'm looking at a tree, but I don't really think about that. I'm just gazing. I do that a lot when I'm writing lyrics. Like I look out, I stare out of windows into nothingness, and that seems to open up this channel and stuff starts to come in and happen. Um, it's it's interesting for sure. What about
Yeah.
you? Like what do you, I mean, so you're newer to the process, right? I mean, this is what's great about this too. But there's no about there being no gatekeepers with art whatsoever.
No, it's just there's
Like
no
about creating
rules.
because here I am, I'm sitting here, I've been writing songs and writing poetry stuff for years and years and years, and you've kind of just getting into it. But
Yeah.
like your stuff is awesome. Like you're doing it's amazing how if you've got the knack for it, how you can just fall into it and do it, and you're doing it a lot, which is what you need to do. I'm too
Yeah.
precious. I'm too precious with things. Like I write very slowly. I write a piece of poetry when or a song when I feel like it, when I feel like it's there. and then I might not do it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You're doing it every day, man.
I
And
try
that's
to
really
wake
good.
up and do write 2 or 3 poems, or not even some of the stuff I'm writing late now is just kind of been like free thought. Yet, yes, there's structure with capitalization and periods, but it's almost like how I would talk in person to myself. Where I did this thing the other day where I just talked about how I perceive the idea of growing old is and how it affects like my parents and like my possible children and stuff like that. And so to kind of go back, I put the release date of my poetry book April 19th of next year, my 40th birthday. And I like having an end game. I already have dates. I have to have stuff uploaded and ready to go. And so I like having like a seeing it visual so I can hold myself accountable. But like I also didn't tell myself I'm not gonna stop writing. So I picked up the writing aspect where I'm like, this might not fit in this book, but who's to say I might do a second book or even if it's not even about a book, why not just keep writing? And so every day, and sometimes I wake up, I'm like, I just don't want to fucking. That's why I asked the thesaurus thing. I run myself through these exercises where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write a song about, I'm gonna write a poem about a ghost, a generic ghost, but I'm gonna use the thesaurus to craft this in 2 different ways using different words. It's like I find myself having fun with the English language, trying to like convey the same message without using the same words. And so like
Mm.
I find joy in like trying to have make games with it, and just trying to just enjoy like the actual process. But I don't mind not. I don't have to write every day. I just choose to just to kind of like break the boredom up, I guess, of like what I'm doing. But it also kind of holds me in check too, where I'm like I don't want to. Because I used to do all the typing, but now I've gone to handwriting a lot of stuff where I'm like I like actually correcting myself in real time, like scribbling out a word and going back, and it's like this is like what the purity of this is.
Yeah. Do you have like, I guess like I maybe I call it a scrap page. Like when I'm formulating the idea of a poem
Oh, it's
or of a
just
song,
scribbles. It's just
but like I use the back of the page before it in my journal to just write down the ideas and like the
yes,
scribbles and like this is possible. And then like I reserve the page that I'm working on for like, okay, I think this is what it needs to be, and you write the next line in.
yeah,
Uh, and then that page becomes scribbles, and you you know.
yeah.
But yeah, so what about but like you asked about a dictionary. Do you use dictionary a lot? Are you like looking for like making sure that what you're thinking means what you
I sometimes I use, and I'm guilty of going to like Google and just being like, I type in the phrase I try to use. Like I pray no one else has used that phrase, right? But I'm also like
yeah.
trying to see if I'm using the right tense. But the other problem I have, why I love poetry, because there is no rules, and so I like how I write because this is how I'm internally thinking. Now, how I'm internally thinking might not sound correctly if I say it out loud to a room of people, but that's why I like what I'm doing because I'm able to just get it out there and this is how I'm internally thinking. These words,
Mm.
of the way this verb tense, the poem might start with like I'm alone or whatever, and then you end with something where it's like past tense or present where I'm like that's how the words got me there. And so like I have to make sure it's not too confusing. And sometimes where I use a word, I feel like I use the word, say like the word ghost or uh say the word ghost, like I can't keep using that word all the time, right? But I'm also not going to subject myself to not using the word because I've used it a lot either. And so I think the dictionary for me is like just a tool I can use to kind of like pull out different words. But I'm also like sometimes when you hear like the other day when I looked up the word ghost, I'm like I could do specter, I could do spirit, I could do like all this stuff where I'm like, but I would never say that. If I write that on a piece of paper, it's not true to who I am. So why do I expect someone to read that and be like, John? I've never heard John say this in the 40 years I've known him.
Right.
So it's like that. It's a cool thing to use, but like you, the thesaurus for me is like that's kind of like my go-to in terms of like because I'll write down a word I want to use, and then I'll write down how many words I know that's similar or like different meaning or whatever, and then I'll go to the source and be like, man, I never even thought about that. I use this word twice a day, so it's like
Yeah.
you have to use those tools, I think, to be successful. And I respect those writers that can like not even use that shit. It just
Yeah.
like they have such a grasp of the human language where it's like it's just profound.
Yeah, man. Well, I that also comes from, at least for me, like I find that my language gets better when I'm listening to podcasts or interviews with
Yes.
really intelligent people who are very well spoken and they're using words that I wouldn't normally use. And then I hear those words and I'm like, oh, that's a great word. And I start to try to use it. And then that becomes part of my vernacular. And you know, you start picking things up like that. But that leads me to something else that's interesting that I'm curious with you about because I know I know how I am with it. Well, there's a balance. Uh, Do you so when you're creating anything, whether you're creating your comic or you're creating the poetry stuff or whatever, do you find you're more inspired when you isolate from everything else, when you isolate from other stories, when you isolate from other works of art, or are you better off when you immerse yourself in other stuff?
So yeah, kind of. I'll preface this by saying when I'm doing the poetry, I'm successful. I make the comic book successful when I'm just focusing on the poetry. I can't go between both. Like I have to get all the poetry out of me. And if I get to the comic book, I can't like jump back and forth. And so, and I think that kind of helps me with why the writing helps with my security or the podcast, like the different pieces of this pie that you kind of supplement each other. Where if I'm having like a bad day in one area, this other section I can kind of focus on. It kind of helps the whole picture there. But I don't. I find that if I'm I follow this for when it comes to poetry, I follow a bunch of poets, and this one poet, Samuel Hurley, I think he's Irish, Scottish. He writes his poetry, but he also does the spoken word reels, where he reads his poetry in his enunciation, his breaks. So when you read the poem yourself, you're kind of like, okay, I get it. But then when you hear him talk, it's like, well, he's reading the line breaks differently. And so like I'm trying to like subconsciously see how if I were to read my poetry, how it would make sense from written word to spoken word. But then recently he used the word hum. I used the word hum describing this poem where the vibration, my dad used a lawnmower for the last time, where he physically couldn't use it anymore. And I distinctly remember the day where you could hear the hum of the lawnmower, and like the hum changed once I started doing all the yard work outside. But
Sure.
then he used the word hum when it dealt with love loss and the hum of the earth, and like the vibrations of like everything was off. The hum was stopped in nature after he lost his connection with this woman. And I was just like, that type of connection there where I'm like, same word, but completely, vastly different usage of it, but the same type of like connection to what that word and the feeling attached to that word meant for each author. And
Hmm.
so then when that happens, I'm like, okay, this is awesome. But then I have to catch myself. It's like, well, fuck, just because he's saying it that way, using it that way, doesn't mean I have to use a word or a similar word that way either. And so it's kind of tough to like not be so versed in, like, I love Atticus. I love RM Drake, Raw Stories. This guy called J.R. Ironside, I believe, or something like that, where it's like these, I
Hmm.
love their writing, but I have to sometimes just back away because I love the writing for the way they do it. I don't want to be inspired in the wrong way to like write about like the one this one off poet, Raw Stories. Awesome dude, crazy background. But he writes a lot about like the human connection with man and woman and the love and the romance and the orgasmic, like this experience that man and woman should share, right? I do not write like that, but I read his words. I'm like, I'm inspired because it's like his version of passion is different what mine is, how I write, but it's passion. And I kind of have to like juggle that line between just being in awe and be like, well, hold on, I can do this a different way and not feel like I'm being this type of author either.
Yeah, it's I find it very like I've had to kind of isolate myself when I'm creating. And there's a reason for that, is that somewhere in my brain, I've got like and I've got like what's the right way of putting it? Like a glue trap somewhere in my brain, like it catches flies or something, right?
Like a fly trap,
And it's like
a strainer.
and as I hear words or as I hear melodies, subconsciously little pieces and bits of those will get stuck to the flypaper in my brain. And then when it's time for me to create and spit things out, I've caught myself on a not a lot, but on a couple of occasions spitting out a melody, and it's like, and I've had it's really embarrassing, man. Like I got called on it twice by the same person. It was like, I know this person thinks I'm a fraud now. Um, it was my publisher when I was with Songs Publishing. It was years ago, like 2012, 2013, somewhere, probably 2012, somewhere around in there. Um, and I sent him, I was just I was kind of flailing around as a songwriter. I was just trying to write whatever I could. I was just sending him like demos of me, like maybe for pop artists, I'm just writing songs. And I sent him this song. He's like, I really like this. I'm gonna play it for the group. And then he came back. He's like, Hey, man, some people said that your verse melody is the same melody as the chorus for Jar of Hearts, which was that Christina Perri song at the time. And I listened to it, and it was, and I was like, fuck, man, like that sucks. It's like I didn't. And I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm not saying I heard Jar of Hearts and that's what, but it was like, oh shit. And then it happened again. I might have told this story before. It's not probably. It's the most mortified I've ever been as a songwriter. And I came up with this melody and chord progression for this song that I was for a chorus, and I was like, man, that's so fucking good. And I thought, and I was like, it's so good that like I played it for a couple of my friends. I was just on piano, just la da 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 da, and I was like going, just playing the thing. And they're like, dude, that's really good. I was like, I know. It's like I gotta land on some lyrics that really work for it. And so, um, uh, I was there. There was a they were looking for songs for a one of these Nickelodeon kids, right? Like, hey, young kid, like 12-year-old kid. Um, and so I was like, it's a great melody. I'll put some words down. So I wrote this kind of like it had to be kind of cheesy because it was for like a kid, it was like for a younger kid. And I wrote these lyrics about listening to somehow listening to music on pop radio and blah blah blah. I think that was kind of it wasn't well, it might have been the hook, actually, might have said something about pop radio or something. And at the end of the day, I don't know if it was a very good song or not, but it was what it was. And dude, I sent it over to him. I'm all jazzed about this thing, and he sends it back. He's like, "Hey man, have you ever heard? I guess it was a Bruno Mars song called Stereo Hearts or something at the time." And he goes, "You ever heard Stereo Hearts?" I'm like, "No, I haven't." And he goes, "Well, this sounds like it, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh shit, okay." Um, 2 days later, we were on tour. Shinedown was on tour. 2 days later, I was walking. We were in the Mall of America. I'll never forget this. In the Mall of America, I was in like the Gap or something, which makes total sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And this song comes over the comes through the speakers, and I was like, I stopped cold, and I was like, because it was exactly the melody and chord progression that I had sent him, and the fact that the song was called Stereo Hearts, and I'd written a song about the radio. And it was just like, holy fuck, man. Like what happened? It was the most surreal moment of like, how did this happen?
Did he
Like
steal
I
your
don't know,
shit?
because I swear to you, I don't think I'd ever heard that song prior to ever. Um, but now I've turned in this song to my publisher, and it is like astonishingly similar to this other thing, to where like if I were the person hearing it, I would go, "Oh, he copied this song," but that's not what happened. And so those two stories by the same person, and I was like, this dude's got to think that I'm a fucking fraud. Like there's no, like it really made me sad. It like affected me. And so much so that, like, and when I tried to talk to him about it, the more I felt like the more that I tried to tell him that like what had happened, the more I sounded guilty or something, you
Yeah,
know?
and you're trying to
And so
justify like why
yeah,
you didn't.
and so
Yeah,
I just stopped. I just stopped trying to explain it and just moved on. But to this day, like those two things and like that situation is the most embarrassed I've ever been, but I didn't again, like I didn't
like how you think of
it
the
was just very odd. It was like very, 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 very odd that like that melody, that progression, the fact that like my song that I wrote said something about the radio, their song said stereo. It was like, what a wild coincidence. So what that caused me to do was like I've got to isolate myself now whenever I'm working on
yeah.
music. Like I don't want to listen to anything else. I don't want to listen to what anybody else is doing. That sucks because what that did for me as well is that spilled over into my enjoyment of music. And I stopped listening to a lot of music, and I still don't listen to a lot of music. I'll find a record every now and then that I'll enjoy, but I don't listen to a lot of music anymore. And what sucks about that is that like I know how inspired I get when I hear something great, and it's like, man, what if I was just inspired all the time by things? But then I worry that maybe in my brain somewhere I've got this fucking fly trap that's like collecting those things, and I'm just gonna like I'm gonna unintentionally spit out the same thing, that someone else already did subconsciously. And
Right.
so I've isolated myself from that stuff, man, because it's um I don't ever want that situation to ever happen again. Like whatever that was, I still don't know because like again, man, I didn't listen to a lot of pop music at all. I still don't really. But I guess maybe somewhere I heard that song or something stuck in my brain
But
or
you think of
but
the number of songs that have been written, the number of chord progressions that have been written, and then the number of artists out there today, from beginner to legendary. I mean, the chances of like that type of stuff like happening, like at what point do people run out of? It's like, is this a crazy thing to thought about? Like, eventually, will we ever get to the point where every type of chord progression will have been released, and now you have to start reusing shit, or is there always going to be new chord progressions and stuff like that?
I think AI will eventually figure all that stuff out, but as long as we don't use AI to write music, I don't think
Right.
we'll ever. I mean, dude, there's so many. You know what 52 factorial is?
I've heard it, but
It's about the how many like
the
if you shuffle it
permutations.
if you shuffle a deck of cards or 52 cards in a deck of cards, when you shuffle the cards, you're the order those cards are in.
Yeah, yeah, got it.
You're the first person ever in history to have those cards in that order. And no one will ever have those cards in that order ever again. And people are like, what do you mean? It's only 52 cards. How do they like
Yeah.
when you get into the math of how many different combinations
Oh
there
yeah.
are or that can happen with those 52 cards, it's more than every grain of sand on the earth. I know that sounds ridiculous, but
No,
you can
but
look it
it's
up.
yeah. The
So
permutation of that is fucking wild.
so think about that. If the amount of chord and progressions and lyrics and words and melodies, like will never land on the same thing. I mean, you'll land on some similar things. We've all heard similar things that remind us of other things, but I think that it's an endless well, man. I think it's uh I don't think we'll ever end up blowing through all of that stuff. I'm not saying that AI can't figure it out. AI could totally figure it out. I just don't want to know what the answer is.
What if
I'm not interested.
like how would you and then how would Shinedown react to say like AT&T or Peloton or Whole Foods was like, hey, we need a jingle, a Shinedown jingle that's original that pertains to our thing. Is that something you guys could do? And I guess the reason why I ask this is because I know bands that on the coming up were like, well, you guys sold out because your song was a jingle for a mattress company and shit like that. And it's just like, hold on a second, why they is it considered selling out if a corporation like that wants you to write a jingle for them, an original piece?
I don't even know what selling out is, man.
It's a
Like
weird. It's just so easy to throw
again,
that out.
this goes back to like like artists being smug and judging other artists. It's like um is you don't get this with athletes, right? You don't get it with athletes where it's like, oh, Patrick Mahomes sold out because he became a successful quarterback and he makes all this money. It's like so I don't understand how that even applies to what people do professionally in
Right.
music or in art or in movies or
Yeah, it's
when you sacrifice your values for something,
right.
right? So if your values are my music is sacred and it will never be used for anything, and then you change your tune on that, for financial gain, okay, but that's on you. That's not for someone else to judge, right? I mean, it's like um my values with music are I want to be a professional musician. I want to be that's all I ever wanted to be. I wanted to be a professional musician. I wanted to play on stage. I wanted to make records. And that's what I do. So, I mean, do we sell out because Look, I mean, Diamond Eyes exists because we talked about it. Diamond Eyes exists because Sylvester Stallone asked us to write a song for a movie.
Correct.
I don't think that's selling out. I think that was one artist inspiring another artist, and we did a thing, you know. Um, so no, man, look, would Shinedown write a jingle for a mattress company? Probably not. You know, I think I do have some lines that I like to draw.
Yeah.
I was talking to Brent about some of those lines. We were talking about it recently, quasi recently. There was some things came up about recording some things or making some things, and I'm like, man, one thing with Shinedown is we're you know, I guess never say never, but um, like we'll never. I don't think we'll ever do a greatest hits record. There'll never be a Shinedown greatest hits
Which is
because
awesome.
it's you know, I think our feeling is the minute that you make a greatest hits record, you're done. Like you don't have, why are you making a greatest hit? Like you're basically saying, whether it's subconsciously or not, that this is the best I can ever do, you know? And so it's like the Aerosmith's greatest hits that came out in this, it's one of the first cassette tapes I ever bought. It's a red cover and it was Aerosmith's greatest hits. And it was before Permanent Vacation, you know, and they had already put on a greatest hits record out. And it was like, and then what did they do after that? Permanent Vacation, Pump, you
Right.
know, Get a Grip, you know, all these Just Push Play, like all these great records that they did after that. And it's like, you know, so that's why you know, you'll never see a Shinedown greatest hits record. So there are certain things that we won't do. Um, you know, another one is I'll just say it because with the conversation Brent and I were having, like a Christmas record, like like a
Yeah,
Christmas
like
E
yeah.
a Christmas EP, like some songs that I would love to record. We did Brent and I did one of them, which was the Peanuts Christmas, right? We did that just in a room at my house, um, and put that out, just kind of a one take thing with a guitar and vocal. I did overdub a tambourine, but or Jingle Bells. I overdubbed Jingle Bells. That's what
Yeah.
it was. Uh, but that's one of them. I mean, there's a song. Uh, there's a couple of Nat King Cole ones that he recorded that I love. You know, back in the day. But man, I'm not gonna write you a fucking Christmas song. You know, like
Yeah.
it's just not happening. And I'm not gonna record Jingle Bell Rock. You know what I mean? Like it's just not gonna happen. Um, that I sort of, now that I've said all this, there'll probably be a Shinedown Christmas EP at some point. I'll have to they got then I maybe I have sold out at that point. But I also have to remember I'm one fourth of a group, and so if I get outvoted on it, that might just be what it is.
Yeah. Now I've also
But
like when it comes to that, I've pictured you guys doing like at first Noel, like something like that, where it's like songs that aren't primarily covered all the time, like Santa Claus coming to town and shit like that. But like I get what you're saying. It's like
well, you know what it is though, man. It's like I feel like when I see that, and this is me
pandering.
again, I huh?
Is it pandering? You think?
Pandering, but it's yeah, it is. It's like that is trying to make a buck. Because the thing is usually those things come down from the record labels or something. Hey, we need a Christmas song, or we
Yeah,
want,
for a
you know,
compilation
and
album.
and it's you know, they want like I don't know of a band on earth that is sitting around going, dude, I cannot fucking wait to record this Christmas song. You know, like I just don't think that's real. I don't think that's real. Um,
You should pick a different holiday, like
and by the way,
Easter songs.
I love Christmas songs. I love
Yeah.
traditional Christmas songs like
Yes.
those Andy Williams records, Nat King Cole,
Yeah.
uh, Bing Crosby, like all of that,
Yes.
like that stuff, man.
Yes.
I love that stuff. So it's not me not liking Christmas. It is just it is purely me not wanting to. I do. I feel like it's like that's not something I would ever go like, yeah, let's do this. No, if somebody else in the band is like, you know, like we got asked, the Brent and I did the Peanuts thing, like that was a couple. It was when we were literally in the middle of writing Planet Zero, and uh, he's like, "Hey, I forget what radio station it was, but they're like this. The station was wondering if we could do a Christmas song." And I'm like, God dang it, man. Like I immediately have that same thing I'm talking to you about. And I'm like, let me think about it. And I was like, honestly, man, like the only cool thing I can think of right now is the Peanuts Christmas song. Like that's cool to me. So let's do that. But that's also why if you watch that video, I look very displeased. I look very displeased at the end. I think I look up at the camera. I'm like, all right, we did the thing. We played your Christmas song. Now, Uh, but now I enjoy listening to it now, honestly. So maybe I shouldn't have been so salty about it. Maybe I'm making a case for us doing something Christmas wise. Like if we did, if someone said, hey, we want you guys to do a Christmas EP, what would um, I would, I would, uh, I'd definitely put the Peanuts Christmas song on there. Christmas time is here. I do a full band version of that, like kind of jazzy and like cool. Just keep it like it is. Not try to redo it. Um, I did write a Christmas song once that went with Silent Night. So it was like half my original thing and half of it Silent Night. I did it for there was a movie that Darren Doan was working on, and he asked me to write an original thing. And actually, Kirk Cameron's kids,
Oh
I met Kirk
wow.
Cameron. He brought his daughter and his niece to the studio, and they sang it. His daughter and his niece sang it. Dude, he was such a nice dude, man. Really, really nice guy. But it's a religious Christmas song that I wrote. So it's not like I'm incapable of it. It just has to be something that I really feel and want to do, I guess. But I wouldn't mind recording that on a Shinedown Christmas thing. That might be nice. So I'm not saying that it wouldn't happen. It's just like I don't, you know.
On your terms, not because some radios.
Yeah, well, not that. It's just I would just if it was going to be like something I was going to put my time into and produce and do, it would have to feel authentic.
Right.
That's what I mean about not selling out. Like selling out to me is when you do something inauthentic. It's not about money. It's about,
Well, to your
what,
point, the amount of work that goes into what you do to even put a song out, if you can't don't believe in it, that's mentally that's got to just be a fucking torture.
yeah, I mean, it's that is selling out. That's what I mean. Like just if making money is not inauthentic to me. It's like I think everyone would like to make money doing what they love to do. So it's like if a mattress company was like, Shinedown, we want you to write a mattress song for us. And we were like, hell yeah, I'd love to write you a mattress song. Then that's not selling out. But if I'm like, I feel like a chump writing a mattress song, but I'm going to write a mattress song anyway, that's selling out to me. So, and that's for no one else to judge but the person. That's why the sellout thing is so ridiculous. It's like so and so sold out. Well, obviously they didn't because they did the thing. They wanted to do it, you know. And I guess that's maybe not always the case. Maybe that's a little short-sighted, um, but it's not for anyone else to judge. It's for the person who is the artist to know if they sold out or not, and that opinion is you know.
I wonder what the most covered song is for commercials.
Hey Siri, what is the most covered song on TV commercials?
Because it always seems like every Super Bowl year, I hear the same songs, or at least every other year, it's the same type of like.
Let's see. This is let's see, what does it say? I don't know if there's a good answer to this. What popular song has appeared in the most television commercials? Um, One person says a contender would have to be "We Built This City" by Starship.
Interesting.
Um,
I can't name
let's
remember a
see.
single commercial of that.
The number one played song according to BMI is "You've Lost That Love and Feeling." Um,
Interesting.
so
A lot of Viagra ads. Cialis,
yeah,
Levitra,
dude. Yeah,
Red
yeah.
Bull.
Or you think they'd use like a rock or something, you
Yeah.
know?
Like a rock,
Like
Cialis.
like a cock.
Yeah. What so this has been episode 30
Oh
and
man.
it's gonna come out on election day.
Oh boy.
And I've just
Yeah.
been like the only so before we go, like one of the things I know we try not to get politics and stuff like that, but like I find it so interesting. It's like
I think that went out the window a few episodes ago.
yeah, but
We
what
we we I
keep
mean, we actually prefer not to, I guess is the
it's
way
just
to
like
put
I
it.
can't not talk about it. And so
Yeah.
like I guess the other day someone was like, oh, I can't wait for the election season to be over. And then the person laughed, and then we looked at each other and goes, "You realize election day means nothing. These next couple of months and years, this is never. It's like it's not going to end. It's like no one's ever
Yeah.
going to be happy. There's more divisiveness today than it was yesterday. It's like it's just such a crazy time we live in, where it's like if I'm in another country, I'm looking at us going, dude, you guys are the third world country. It's crazy.
I the good thing is though, I'll put a positive spin on this. The good thing is the people as a whole. I'm not saying every individual, but I think as a whole, the people are getting really fed up with all of it. We're getting really tired of it. We're tired of the endless news cycles. We're tired of the divisiveness. I am, and I think, and everyone that I talk to is.
I think
and
mainstream
and
media
and
is
and and that it crosses party lines, man. It doesn't
correct.
matter. We're all tired of it, and so I think that if nothing else but for self-preservation, they're going to have to back off the throttle with all of this stuff at some point.
Well, it just seems like mainstream media is like on both sides, like pushing these lies where it's like you clearly hear the speech in real time. You just sound bites, all this crazy shit they do, and then you look at like how podcasts and like free thinkers are controlling the narrative now in terms of like how getting to know what the news is and who people are. It's just like
Sure, yeah,
why
I
would
think that honestly, man, I think the news media is doomed.
oh god,
I
it's
really do.
awesome.
I think they're doomed. Like they don't. No one listens. Like you're right, man. And it does happen on both sides. I mean, I think we know that it happens a bit more on one side than the other, probably. But both sides will take a soundbite and make up what they want to make up and try to make the other sound as bad as they possibly can and lie and do
It's
whatever.
just
And it's
embarrassing.
like people want the truth, man. People want to live in the real world. And I think on podcasts we're finding that now. Um, the great thing
I
about
love Trump and JD on Rogan. I love the Fetterman on Rogan. The
yeah, oh
Fetterman
yeah.
thing was so like
I haven't watched that yet.
it was like
I haven't
just
watched
like
I haven't watched any of those three, to be honest with you.
just
Uh,
profound, like just amazing talks with people on both sides to be like, look, we understand who the human is behind these misconceptions or what we love about these people. It's like it was refreshing that this guy Fetterman went into a world after you had Trump and JD Vance. It did was completely himself. It was like trying to answer questions. It was like he didn't run from it.
yeah.
Whereas, like I think mainstream media protects both candidates and both people when they can to kind of paint the picture they perceive we all want to hear and see.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's I don't know, man. I just don't see how look, we've talked about this before. I know that there's love and hate for Donald Trump, and I accept the fact that there's love and hate for Donald Trump. I can see I see why people don't like him, and I can see why people like him. Um, the thing is you have to ask yourself why this guy who was completely accepted by everybody. He was had the number one television show in the world, or in the United States anyway. uh been in all these movies, media darling. You watch him when he went on The View back in the day, they're all fawning over
Oh, Oprah Winfrey loved
my
him.
good
Yep.
friend Donald Trump and all of this
Yes.
stuff. And then the second that he got elected president, nobody liked him anymore, both sides, because he took their control away. For better
Correct.
or worse. I'm not, this is not me giving him an endorsement. I'm just saying he he was the fly in the ointment. They've created this world that they control everything and they can make money and they can launder money and they can steal and they can kill and they can do whatever they want to do with impunity and get away with it. And now, holy shit, we don't have control over we don't have control over the president. You watched the entire political sphere and the news media that surrounds it flail and grasp and try to destroy and get him out of there. They've continued it with this cycle. So that's why nobody likes Trump. It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with misogyny. It has nothing to do with any of this other. He's not a Nazi. He's not Hitler. It has to do with the fact that he wasn't chosen by them. I mean, you look at what the DNC did. Like Hillary Clinton cheated Bernie Sanders out of the nomination, out of the Democrat nomination for that the election. She paid
Yeah.
for it too.
Yeah.
Um, Kamala Harris was just put in place by the
Right.
Democrat Party. The Republicans have done it in the past too. Like you look at somebody like Mitt Romney, who was running against,
Yes.
what a horrible shit human being that guy is, right? And
Right.
and but here's the thing: they don't care if Democrat or Republican wins because they've chosen both.
Correct.
We've put in place, we have this illusion of choice where we go through this primary process. Well, the primary process is run by the two parties. They put the person in there that they want in there. You only get exposed to the people they want you exposed to. Uh, and usually the people that they had that you were exposed to, they're fine with any of those people winning on one for the Democratic nomination and for the Republican nomination. And then when it comes to the actual election, they're fine with either one of those winning too, because it's all one party. They just want to make the money and control everything at the end of the day. All the elites in Washington, all of them, Republican, Democrat, whoever's there, and the media, they like this control thing. Well, here comes Trump. He's not one of them. Fucking shit, he won. Okay, now what? Yeah, because Hillary Clinton was supposed to win. Like it was a foregone conclusion. She had a 97% chance of winning the day before the election, is what everybody said. Um, so that being said, if Donald Trump loses this election, all of the rhetoric will stop immediately. It'll all calm down because he's not going to run again, probably. I mean, he could, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't think.
Um, so you'll see all of a sudden everything will be kumbaya as fuck because now everything's okay. We have our puppet person in power now. They're in place as the figurehead, just like Biden, you know, and we can continue business as usual. If Donald Trump wins, you're going to see 4 more years of flailing and name calling and bullshit, and then everything will calm back down.
Right.
You know,
I'm
uh,
okay with the flailing and the fighting back if there's truth to it, but these constant
well,
lies on
no,
both sides, where it's like, hold on a second,
well, no,
Joe
but
never said that, Trump never said that, or whoever it was just like it's so tiring. But to your point, that's their game.
yeah, I think the latest one is Trump said that if anybody knows the history of Dick Cheney, and he was
Yeah, Warhawk.
Halliburton Warhawk,
Oh,
like he was the Bush vice president. He's the reason why one of the main reasons why we were in Iraq and Afghanistan as long as
yes,
we were and everything else. His daughter Liz Cheney is a Republican, but she's just as Warhawkish as he is. And so Trump made the point in a speech the other day. He said, or in a talk, I guess it wasn't really a speech. I don't think he gives speeches. I think he just gets up and talks. That she should have to fight in the wars that she sends other people to fight in,
how
that
would
she
she
wants to
like
send other
nine
people to.
barrels pointed at her
Yeah,
like these men and women she's sent to combat?
right. And
Yes,
so and so the news media took that and said Trump said that Liz Cheney deserves to be in front of a
shot.
firing squad or shot. And I'm like, it's not what he said.
No,
Uh, so you're not wrong about that. But the thing is, what you have to realize, man, is like I'm way okay with the flailing around. What I mean by flailing is almost like death throes. It's like a panicked animal. Like if you get an animal in a trap, it's just gonna fucking pull on the
yeah,
fucking
even when
trap,
you're trying to help it, yes,
And so that's what we watch the media do. That's what we watch the political side do, is because they got caught in this trap. Trump is now the president. Holy shit, we can't control him. He's going to expose everything. He's going to, and so they're doing. They're going to. My point being is they're going to continue that. The interesting thing is most Americans should, I think all Americans should welcome an outsider like that. I mean, it would be like if Ron Paul had won, or if Ross Perot had won, right? These are why these
yeah,
people never win, by the way. Trump is the first one of these people who I think has ever won. It's always been this controlled thing. The president is, I think Gerald Ford might have been the last one that was like kind of a wild card,
yeah,
but you know, he was kind of I say he was a buffoon. They painted him to be a buffoon. That might have been part of the plot, but um, the fact that someone won an election who wasn't supposed to win an election, and it was actually uh more of an actual the democratic process actually worked should be a great sign. But look, man, once we get back to them having whoever they want to be both nominees, think about when we had John McCain and Barack Obama, or Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. It's like these two people, it doesn't matter which one wins.
Right.
The government just keeps doing the same fucking shit it always does. We'll go to war, and then we'll then we'll act like we want to end the war, and we'll figure out some other way to launder money for a while. We'll up your income taxes. We'll
Yeah.
tax you on this. Then we'll go to war again, and then that shit never changes, man.
Yeah.
This
Correct.
is the first, like in my lifetime, someone like Trump is the first time that I've seen a shift where it wasn't exactly the same thing. It's unscripted. And you know, so I think that if Trump loses, we go back to normal pretty quickly, because then they'll have their established people in there, and they will never let a Trump happen ever again. Um, if if Trump wins, we'll have 4 more years of them browbeating us with how we're all Nazis, and we all, and how racist we all are, and
Yeah.
how terrible human beings everyone in the United States is, and oh my God, we're all fucking awful. And then after 4 years and Trump's gone, then we'll go back to normal, and there will never be another outsider allowed to come in ever again.
Yeah,
Mark my words.
maybe after 4 years we'd miss the money laundering to Iran and Ukraine and
Yeah.
the little things, right?
It is the little things like that. Yeah. And by the way, that's not me making a political statement about Donald Trump for or against. I'm just saying that is, to me, is very obvious as to
Yeah,
what
for
happened.
sure, for
And
sure.
I think that's something that I wish that the rest of the country looked at it that way and could go, oh yeah, I think there's some validity to that this guy has walked in and pissed in everybody's breakfast cereal. And they don't like it. So
Yes.
anyway, but yeah, man, this comes out on election day. Everybody just,
Be safe.
well, yeah, be safe, but
Vote.
I go vote, and vote who you think is going to be a better candidate to run our country. Sometimes I've had to do this in the past too, man, where it's like what seems like something that's good for me personally maybe isn't good for the country, maybe isn't good for the whole. And so, just I would never tell anybody who to vote for. Just go vote your conscience. Go vote who you think is going to take the federal arm of our government in the direction you think it should go. I just happen to think that that's away from wars and away from the military industrial complex, and
For sure.
that kind of thing. But that's just me.
Awesome. Yeah. When do you think the first celebrity endorsement was? Like, why is that a thing?
Oh man, it is.
It's weird, right? Like, it feels like,
Yeah,
again,
it's
this isn't me
weird.
picking sides, but when you see on the Republican side, the celebrities that have come out, like people like Kid Rock that you obviously know, but like it feels real. But then you look at the Democrats, all these people that come out and chill and do these speech. People aren't coming there to see the kid; they're there to see a free concert if they actually perform. It's like, so what is the? It just seems like celebrity endorsements on either side are just like smoke and mirrors to what the actual problems are in this country. And so why are we even? Who actually? You can love Taylor Swift, you love Kid Rock. I happen to like both of them. I think they're super talented for different
Yep.
reasons. But I would be the first one to tell you if I'm not going to listen to Kid Rock and Taylor Swift, tell me who to vote for.
No, and
Are they banking on these celebrities, weak fans, to just be
yeah,
sheep?
I think that's what no, I think what it is, man, is both sides is when because you don't usually see that stuff until late in the election,
No,
late in the process, right? Because I think what it is the people who are paying attention to politics care about policy, and they care about facts, and they care about um you know but then you have the whole other side of the population that is just mouth breathing sort of
oh,
I'll go wherever you tell me to go, and they're relying on that. Both parties are relying on that, so they that's how they get their mouth breather vote, you know. And unfortunately, most fandoms like fandom people are mouth breathers in a lot of ways, man. They will do whatever the Like that's what I love about Shinedown fans. Shinedown fans aren't mouth breathers, man. They're like they love the band, but they love the band for substance, and I feel very fortunate with that. But some of these other artists have these fandom fans that are like, you know, they could tell them all to jump off bridges, and they'd probably some of them would do it, you know.
Right.
So it's very culty. So I think that they find these kind of fan bases that are kind of culty and rely on them to to you know
Yeah,
to do that. So
it's
I don't know.
crazy.
So we need to do another one of these this week for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, if we still have Wi-Fi. uh,
It's been glitchy.
well, I just think. I mean,
Oh, you mean after the election?
I I don't know.
I dude, I look, I honestly, man, look, maybe I've heard so many people talking about the media talking about like, oh, what's going to
yes.
happen after the, and I'm like, do you all know something we don't know? Like, is there a plan or because for me, man, it's like I put a lot of faith in humanity. I'm like, I don't think people are looking for a reason just to go out and fucking riot. Maybe they are. I don't know. You know, the BLM riots and the George Floyd riots and all that seemed like there was a reason for that, and like that's what fueled that, and there was um, uh, uh, a human moment behind that that will get people going and get people riled up. I don't think that honestly, man, I think to back to what I said before, I think people are so sick of the divisiveness all the way around that I don't think we're going to see any sort of like, I mean, you might see some marches, but I don't think you're going to see any rioting or anything. I think,
I hope not.
um,
It won't be. It'll be manufactured by bullshit if it happens.
well, that's what I'm saying. What do they have planned? Like, why are they
Which
telling us this is
which
what's going
the
to happen?
irony of all the states have brought in the National Guard are all Democratic run states that happened to protest during the George Floyd COVID protests.
Yeah. So who knows? Who knows?
Lord.
All right. So much for not being political, John. Thanks.
Yeah. Do you think Edgar Allan Poe would be involved in politics? Like, could you
I'm
imagine
so I'm
Shakespeare being like, you know what? Who's the best speaker out here? And be like, these people both suck.
Hey man, like next let's talk about your comic and poetry next time. Let's talk about my record and the next Shinedown record. Let's talk about that stuff next time around because there's a lot of that shit going on for sure.
It's
There's
crazy. It's crazy.
my record's gonna be dropping soon-ish. Parts of it will be dropping very soon.
And
But
I think by that time, I'll talk to you off the record, but we could start announcing the other thing we're doing too. So
yeah,
it
let's do
comes
that.
out early next year. Awesome.
Cool. Peace.
Later, dude.